Hey guys, Chris Grant here. I'm joined by Paul. Paul, I don't want to butcher the last name. Is it Rafelson, or how do I pronounce it?
It's actually whatever you want it to be. It's all good. No, it's actually Rafelson. I actually like Rafelson better. And like in Europe, like some people say Rafelson, but I'm so used to Rafelson my whole life that I've always started doing it myself because it is easier to say.
Yeah.
But technically, um, Rafelson, but they don't. So I like Rafelson better. So let's go with
Okay.
Rafelson today.
All
Go
right.
ahead, Paul.
So Paul is an attorney, and I actually shared a link to an article about some of the things that you are doing in Kentucky. You want to give us a little bit of background about yourself and about what's going on there, and kind of talk about all the things that you've done for the Amazon community?
Yeah, no, thank you. I'd love to talk about it. So yeah, so I'm a lawyer. I've been a lawyer for 15 years, almost to the day. I spent most of my life actually doing tax litigation for big corporations. I worked in-house at handling, tax litigation issues for like Microsoft. I lived down in Seattle. I worked for Walmart for a couple of years. I lived in Arkansas and worked for GE. I was with a firm before that, before any of that. So I kind of, had this kind of career path of like, big corporate tax litigator, and it was all good. And then one day I did a blog post for an Amazon consultant who does suspensions, and little known secret about me, but my wife used to work for Seller Performance, and I actually used to be an Amazon seller before when I was in law school. I was retail arbitraging. I would argue I'm like one of the like to the extent the expression is it OG whatever
Oh
applies. I
yeah.
would say I'm probably one of them because I was arbitraging DVDs like in 2002, 3, 4. There's no FBA. I mean, I was causing backups at the post office like you wouldn't believe, and then into video games and whatever I could get my hands on at Walmart. But back then it was like I was making crazy money for a
Uh-huh.
law student. I was paying for school. I was covering my expenses. Never thought in a million years that it could pay off though. Like, I mean, I never thought like the clients I have now and the people I've met now who are in retail arbitrage, like that's just not something I ever, you know, thought possible back in 2004 or five, and I used to still do it. I still have a basement full of crap. One of these days I'll do a webinar and just show people my basement and stop talking about it. But it's hilarious because I was arbitraging when I was working at G because I had a 9 to 5 gig as a lawyer. That's amazing, right? I was weekends
Yeah.
off, so I was, my whole plan was I was going to pay my daughter's college fund. She was very young. But now having a private law practice, it's harder. But anyway, so I did this blog post about sales tax back in 2017. There was this amnesty, and that kind of launched me into the world of Amazon as an attorney, as being an attorney for Amazon sellers. And so from a blog post came a full-fledged legal practice of, and not just tax, but just like pretty much anything an Amazon seller needs because quickly I realized that there's a lot of stuff that, I have a lot of experience with because tax touches everything in the big corporate world, intellectual
Hmm.
property, corporate formations, things like that, all that stuff that you kind of think is useless, but then you start to meet people and like, oh, wow, you kind of actually need this help. And, obviously there was a need with California, and I have a lawsuit against California right now regarding sales tax, with all the people getting hit with back taxes. But the practice has really grown, and I've taken on another partner who's also he actually is a 7-figure seller. He was one in law school too, much younger than I am, and he kind of leads our Amazon suspension IP infringement practice, which quickly call it Seller Base, called Seller Basics. But basically, it's a cool program. People should check it out, and especially if you're in arbitrage, and especially if you hate getting those Voorhees letters. But so I've been doing a lot of that, but to kind of get to what this is about, because I have two hats. Like I have this hat that I wear as a lawyer for Amazon sellers, and that's kind of my business now, and that's what I do. But ever since the sales tax thing started, I always said I was talking to some interesting, influential people in the community. I said, why in the heck is there no trade association for Amazon? Like who represents you? Like I'm
Hmm.
used to corporations. Like we, if we'll use tax. Like if Chicago is going to have a soda tax, it's not Pepsi that goes up against that tax. They get together, they form a coalition, and they challenge it as a group because
Right.
every industry, the Wisconsin Cheese Farmers Association, there's like a group of people like when you have common interests, you take it on as a team. That way nobody has to bear the cost. And there are so many issues, and I think we should be lobbying, and I think we should be doing more. And so it's kind of been my mission since I started in 2017 working with Amazon sellers, but we formed the organization in 2018 in February, I wrote a Supreme Court brief in the Wayfair case, which you can find online, to support, our position. And from there, we've just been looking for ways to kind of find opportunities to support our members. And this is something I do as a volunteer because, one, I love the cases. Amazon, I'm a con law nerd. I teach a con law class in New York on tax law and the Constitution. And a lot of the issues that pop up in state and local tax is different than sort of what you think of federal tax is constitutional law and the Commerce Clause and due process clause and all that boring stuff. But I love that stuff. I've been around it my whole life. And you find that a lot of those issues you see in tax, because you're dealing with like multi-jurisdictional taxes and states that are across the country and companies that are all over the country, all of a sudden you realize with Amazon sellers, it's kind of the same thing. So a lot of the legal principles that say, hey, those tax software companies were kind of full of crap and you really didn't owe any of those back taxes and you should have fought. A lot of those legal principles that are still out there, they apply in other contexts too. And so I love these cases. These are fun. I'm happy to do it. I'm happy to try to take the lead in getting the community together to be more unified on certain fronts and recognize that we all have common interests here. And that's been my goal. It's been hard. It's hard. A lot of people, one, I'm not that well known. I've spoken at a few things, I suppose, but I'm not really good at the self-marketing and so it's hard to do. It's hard to get people into it. But it's hard to sell. It's hard to say, hey, if you go to onlinemerchantskill.org, we have a membership page, but you don't really get anything with membership right now. You're supporting our cause, you're supporting our legal efforts, you're supporting our lobbying efforts, but there's no tangent benefit that's clear. Like I always said, we should be like the AARP and have some sort of seller version of the AARP where you have some discounts, so that way people can feel like they're getting at least something more immediate for the money. But
right.
It's as little as $100 to join. I mean, we don't require much, and there's sort of a suggestion amount that we threw out there, and this was during the height of the tax issue, because the way we were looking at it is tax was our first big issue that we were taking on. And if you're facing a $500,000 back tax bill from California, you shouldn't think twice about contributing to group legal for 10 grand, because the cost of litigating that kind of a case is going to be way more than 10 grand.
Oh yeah.
So, we tried to kind of, but the thing I'll say about that is, if you look at it, because I do encourage people to join, and it is private. We don't give out our members' names or information. That's the beauty of having an association, is that we can take on court cases and we can sort of substitute ourselves for you. So no one person has to put themselves out there. And we do have members who do like to put themselves out there, that they don't mind. A lot of members testified before Congress in March, or submitted written testimony. So, I mean, we do have some, but we certainly, I respect the need for privacy more so much, and would never pressure anyone into saying, hey, you should come forward. And, that's the whole point, is that we can be the voice that, so you can go about your business with Amazon, but know that somebody's out there, fighting for you in government against Amazon, and just sort of taking the position that, I'm tired of Amazon stepping all over us. So, if you go to the website and join, we don't check. We don't, we're not going to say, hey, we found out you're really a $2 million seller and you signed up for an under 500. We don't care.
Right.
These are suggestions. We're just just join, support, be a member, be a part of this movement that we're trying to create. And, the other thing I'll say is, to the extent that you have an interest in being in the leadership of it, that's an open opportunity. We're definitely looking for people who want to be leaders, but leadership, you have to be a little bit more public. Your name is public, right? Your name's going to be filed in documents. Mm-hmm. So not an easy thing to do, but we have folks who are willing to be out there for us and put their name out there for us, and we appreciate them for that. But if that's something you want to do, or if you have ways to help us, if you're good at WordPress, I could really use some help, because our website is not great. And then as far as some of the accomplishments, I mean, we really pushed hard. I would say, for the marketplace facilitator law, targeting California to kind of move this thing along, get most of the states on board with AB 147. We were on the ground in Sacramento testifying.
If nobody's seen the video of your testimony, I know it's I know it's, it might
It's out
seem
there.
boring, but it's out there and it's good. I watched it when it was when that was all going on. It was great.
Thank you. Yes, thank you. Yeah, no, definitely boring, but we're trying to get the message, and it worked to some extent. And we still have to fight the back taxes, and that's ongoing. Um,
I know a
but
few people who are dealing with that.
yeah, and I'm working on that, and I'm not done. I mean, technically we're not a part of the gross case, but obviously, I am a part of the gross case. So, there's a technical reason why that makes sense, and we have to respect that the gross case is technically different than this, but obviously we know what the outcome is. We're trying to hold Amazon accountable for $2 billion of unpaid taxes that they owe the state of California,
Mm-hmm.
right? That's what we're trying to do. So, I mean, we have to prove that one, we have a right to be in court, which is the current issue. It's on demur. And then, that we're allowed to go to court on this issue, which we feel very good about. And then after that, we have to prove that Amazon owes a tax and feel very good about that. And, if Amazon owes a tax, well, what does that mean for everybody else? I don't know. But I think we can all, fill in the blank here, right? Like, but there's some legal issues that, I can't say that I have to be careful of, but that doesn't mean that we couldn't find another way to get into court and speed up the issue. It's just that with taxes, and especially federal court, there's some technicalities that don't exist in price gouging, which we're going to move on to shortly, that make it hard to go to federal court. And I just want to be very careful before I spend member money. These funds that are contributed, I'm very careful about what we spend our money on. I published some early, sort of like quick and dirty financials that just so people could finally see, what are we, what have we been doing? How much have we raised? Which is, we've done okay. I have to file the nonprofit application like in a couple of days. It's due, so that we can finally get that official and start that process. We have 27 months, so I've been kind of procrastinating. I apologize. But as far as what else we've done before we get into price gouging, I think a lot of people don't recognize that I'm going to take credit for the 72-hour suspension, because that is something that we brought to the table with AB 1790 in California.
Mm-hmm.
Once that got passed in California, even before it got passed, Amazon started implementing, but it was pretty clear that was going to get passed. And Europe had already asked for something similar, and it was the intent of the legislature in California to sort of mimic the European style, and so once you bring something to California, you might as well, to some extent, you kind of bring it to the nation, especially when
Right.
you're Amazon. So I was glad that we're now able to kind of have, not that 72-hour suspension is the best answer ever, but it's that legislation, AB 1790, if you haven't read it, it's a starting point to getting sellers recognition, recognizing that there's something to protect there. And I was proud to have that foot in the door. That just like, okay, yeah, there's government, while one part of California is trying to screw us, pardon my language, with their taxes, there's this other part that actually, sees the problem with Amazon's, kind of dirty dealing or unfair dealing with us, and wants to start the process of getting us some protection. So I was all for it. And
Yeah.
Anyway, so yeah, that's kind of what we do. Sorry, that's kind of a long-winded answer.
That's okay.
I'm not good at short and brevity. I've never been.
That's all right. That's all right. But yeah, the 72-hour thing, it is huge. It's a heck of a lot better than just waking up and, oh crap, I'm suspended. With no warning at all. So, but the thing you're working on now, not long ago, it was huge news about price gouging, and there was a seller or two who were named in these stories, and it did not go well for them. And I'm not going to rename names or anything. And even the seller community seemed to be very torn in half over the issue. Whether it was they were doing the right thing or the wrong thing, and I'm kind of the mindset that while yes, price gouging does protect people, on the other hand, we make our money on the margins, based on what the market will sell. So it's also difficult to give those people a hard time for charging what the market will bear. But this thing that you filed in Kentucky to try to protect the sellers from prosecution, what's that about, and how's it going?
Yes, so I agree with you. It is not a popular issue, and sometimes when when you're a con law nerd, the not popular issues are the fun ones, right? But that wasn't my motivation here. My motivation was it was affecting a lot of people, and if you really looked at what was going on, yeah, it was unpopular, but if you really look at what some of these states are doing with their laws, I mean, like, Florida has a very clear-cut state of emergency law. You declare a state of emergency, you sell after that date, you're breaking their law, right?
Mm-hmm.
It's a civil issue at the state level. It could potentially be a criminal issue, which I've had a couple clients deal with and had to help them through at the county levels. There could be some misdemeanor components to it. Okay, but that's a clear-cut rule to some extent because there's this date, right? When you start looking at these other states, Kentucky, Indiana, Ohio, Michigan, you start to realize there's no state of emergency component to this. Like, what they're kind of saying is what we do as retail arbitrage on a day-to-day basis could be illegal. And that started to make me think. Because it's like, yeah, they just like say, you know what? Because right now it's, oh, yeah, it's a state of emergency. But that's not what the law says. The law says something much more vague. It says unconscionable price. Well, okay, well, if I buy something at Walmart and I sell it for $2 because it's on the clearance rack and I sell it for 50, that's a multiple of 25. Is that unconscionable?
Right.
And that to me was where I really started to not like where this was going. I don't like the Florida law either. And it's not because I'm anti-price gouging. In fact, I've lived in Florida. I've been through a hurricane. I certainly don't want to have my house blown down, walk down the street to the next 7-Eleven and pay $300 for a bottle of water and have the Holiday Inn charge me $10,000 to stay at the Holiday Inn for one night.
Of course.
Right? That's a bad thing. And that's what price gouging laws are designed to prevent. It's a very localized and it's very immediate. Okay. When you're ordering e-commerce, one, it's not local. You're ordering from a national storefront in the internet that serves the entire country, not just Florida. And it's not immediate, right? Like, this isn't coming right away. Like, it's a process, right? It's like, if you need a glass of water, you don't, there hasn't been prime 5 minutes yet, right? Like, you need a glass of water right away, you go to the store. And that's what those laws were designed for. And when you start to apply those laws in the context of Amazon, you start to see a lot of constitutional, what I believe, and what we told the court of Kentucky, and we'll be in court to try. We have a hearing tomorrow, so I mean, this is moving fast.
Awesome.
So we filed a TRO, temporary restraining order. So we're trying to get this. This is a serious constitutional problem, but when you start to apply those laws to Amazon, you start to realize like the whole principle of them breaks down here because there's a couple things. Let's take COVID out of the picture, okay? Because COVID is a very polarizing topic and people get angry, and I get it, and I'm not insensitive.
Yep.
But there's two sides to every story, and a lot of times what we're finding is people are not price gouging. Like they aren't actually. I mean, the prices that are people are getting subpoenas just for the very mere fact that they dabbled in these products, and it's not even proven that they've actually sold it at a price that would even subjectively somebody might consider unconscionable. So there's that issue that the investigations are very broad, and it's probably the scariest document some of our members and my clients. When I've got these, in my practice, I've got 10 states worth of subpoena cases going on right now with different state AGs. That's a wholly different. It's like it's not the same. Like I said, let's take COVID out of the picture. Let's imagine there's a hurricane in Florida. And the price of hammers, and everybody needs a hammer to rebuild their house, and that's on the price gouging list. So you can't sell a hammer in Florida for $20 because that's unconscionable. But what we know about Amazon is let's say you bought the hammer for $12, and you're selling them for $20 on Amazon because there are people in New York every day who will pay $20 for that hammer for the convenience of having it brought to their home. Right?
Absolutely.
Because people on Amazon pay more for stuff, right? Prime's not a discount program. It's not what people think, right? Sometimes it can work out that way if the arbitrage is good or if they got, right? But $20 could be a fine price in Florida and 48 other states. I'm sorry, in New York and 48 other states. So you've got this person sitting in Florida selling perfectly legitimate hammers at $20 at a perfectly legitimate price that's perfect in 49 other states other than the state he's sitting in right now, Florida. And I'm asking myself, why does the state of Florida have the right to tell him to stop selling hammers to people in other states who aren't affected by this hurricane in Florida? Because we don't have a national price gouging law. There's an executive order. That's a different story, and it's very limited, although we'll talk about that another day. But that's the thing. It's like, I can't be restricted. Now, could that person in Florida selling on Amazon just stop selling to Floridians? Sure. They could cancel every Florida order. No problem on Amazon when you cancel orders, right? It's pretty cool, right? Yeah, no issue, right? They just let you cancel as many orders as you want, right? Amazon's not gonna come line, right? There's not gonna end up any problem for you, right? An order defect is not a thing, right? So it's like you kind of have the two choices. Either you're subject to the Florida price and you have to kind of sit out, you know, and you lose money, or you sit out of the market because you can't engage in business. And that's what we call extraterritoriality. When a law starts to have effect beyond its state, right? Florida has the right to control price gouging in the state of Florida. It does not have the right to prevent price gouging in the state of New York. That's the difference. And that's where, you know, we sort of saw first step, like, this is a problem. I can't set a Florida price. I can't exclude Floridians, right? And so what we're really arguing is we're not necessarily saying, you know, all price gouging is evil and bad, and this is, you know, sort of what I call the libertarian argument, you know, not knocking libertarians. I'm not, you know, I keep my politics pretty quiet because we represent people from all over the spectrum, and that's cool. But just sort of that perspective of, you know, this is a free market economy and that's the way it should be. I'm not promoting that position. All we're saying is that, you know, you've got Amazon here, and kind of like sales tax, right? What's the best way to administer the sales tax? Is it to have 5 million people around the world be responsible for 50 state laws? Or is it to regulate the biggest retailer in the world and make them responsible? And it's kind of the same thing with price gouging. You know, to the extent, and it may not be, but to the extent there's a constitutional way to impose these price gouging laws, right? We're just saying regulate Amazon. That's all we're really saying is like regulate Amazon, but in a way that, you know, isn't you just keep guessing, and, you know, we don't want the DMCA where, like, which is kind of what we have now, where Amazon won't kind of give you any guidance, and then if you guess wrong, you get kicked off. We want something a little bit more concrete, but the initial point of this case is to say it just can't be the sellers. Like that is unconstitutional. It violates a number. So in addition to extraterritoriality, it violates something what we call the Pike balancing test, which is to say that, you know, because it would be so unduly burdensome and impossible for a small business who has access to the national economy to incorporate. In fact, it's impossible because Amazon doesn't even allow those things to be taken into account. It's really unconstitutional for the state to impose the burden on the individual merchants, and that they can certainly work with Amazon to come up with a better way to handle their price gouging. And you know, it also comes down to kind of, and the other reason I like this case so much is because it's so much like tax, right? Where, like, why were the states so resistant to make Amazon collect tax for all those years? And why is only 1 out of 45 states going after Amazon for back taxes? That politics, right? You know, Amazon's such an influential player in these states. So obviously they're not going to, like, you know, we're working with Amazon as a partner in fighting price gouging. Bullshit. Excuse me. Amazon is making 15% if you're fulfilled, up to 45% if it's fulfillment by Amazon, right? And they're just they're a part, you know, they're this innocent Amazon. They're so poor, and, you know, they have to deal with this price gouging thing. Like as if the prices that Amazon allows on their site isn't a signal to us to go sell, right? Like, I mean, if we didn't know a product is selling for a certain price, right? If we didn't know, okay, this is the going rate, we're probably not going to go get it. But when Keepa and these things feed out of their APIs, tell us, like, hey, look, this price is, if you can get your hands on this product, this is the historical price. That's a signal from Amazon. It's not really that much different than Walmart saying, we'll pay a supplier more if you can get us these products now, right? Supply on demand, right? And it's just so amazing how state governments, because they're so self-interested in preserving their opportunities, the next round of Amazon jobs, they overlook the economic realities. This is just Amazon's store. They're still the biggest store in the world. They carry all the same power as Walmart and all the same power as Target. They just do it a little bit different to try to get out of all the things that those stores are actually responsible for when they operate, like price gouging, like counterfeits, like infringement, like all the things, like personal injury when somebody gets their eye, when they go blind in one eye, you know, which is the case in Pennsylvania, right? And, and the only reason Amazon seems to get away with it is because they're Amazon. Like this, and as a tax lawyer, it's frustrating because when I am defending these huge corporations and like Walmart or Microsoft, it's like, we never get away with any of this crap. Like this is the kind of crap like nobody ever gets away with this. And I see it happen to Amazon. I'm like, you guys are kidding me. Like, it's like, really? And the problem is every time Amazon gets away with something, there has to be a victim. There has to be there has to be a bad guy. And Amazon always turns their sellers into the bad guys. And I call them the scapegoats, right? Like we're the scapegoats for Amazon to go out and make 15% to 20% or whatever it is on margin on all these prices. Like really, what if somebody put $700 toilet paper on Amazon as a joke just to see what happened? Are you telling me it's their fault, or should the world's largest retail e-commerce site have thought maybe we shouldn't publish $700 toilet paper on the internet because that's going to send panic in the world, right?
Right.
People don't know that could have just been somebody having a joke, and that just like all the other times we've had pricing errors on Amazon, maybe that would have been a good time to have invoked one before it went live, right? It just shows the level. It's the level of control they have. It's like they know they have the level of control, but then they'll pretend like they seeded it, and somehow that's an excuse. We call that willful blindness in the law. And it's fascinating. So it's just another example of like, okay, now what this is really about is sellers getting hosed, for lack of a better word, for Amazon's benefit. So they kind of entrapped us, right? Like they kind of said, oh, go out and gather these products as much as you can. Go to every Home Depot. And get these products, these are the prices, which arguably is a market price, by the way. I mean, that's another argument, but it's like that actually could be a market price because if that's what people are paying for in the national economy, that kind of does set as another defense to price gouging. Our point is we don't even want to be under investigation for it. We don't want to be in a defense position, right?
Right.
You never want to do business under presumption you're guilty of crime. It's not fun, right? You don't want to start your day saying like, oh gosh, I hope this is enough to defend myself when the government eventually investigates me.
Right, it makes you feel like a drug dealer.
Yeah, it's like exactly. You're basically living like a drug dealer, right? For many of us right now in California, that's how we're living, right? In California, there's a presumption of guilt. If you sell anything 10% over, any consumer good, 10% over what its pre-COVID price was, there's a presumption of guilt. Okay, you know the expression "innocent until proven guilty."
Yep.
That's an important distinction in American law versus like North Korea, right? Where like, you don't have to, you're not just told you're guilty and forced to then prove your innocence. It's the government actually has to meet the burden first of showing that they have substantial evidence to show you're guilty, and then you can show your counter evidence to show you're innocent, right? But at least they have to meet in California, that presumption is met by just proving that you sold the product for 10% more. So by default, anything you list on Amazon, even if you were like Mother Teresa, you just wanted to get masked out into the country at the price you paid for it, you were going to absorb your gas, you were going to absorb your depreciation on your car and your time. You just didn't want to lose a dollar. You didn't want to lose a penny on what you paid for it at Home Depot, but you wanted to get it into Amazon so people could buy it in New York, people could buy it in California, where the virus was in January, it wasn't in Kentucky, it wasn't in Alabama. You're already marking this thing up 20%. So like, you're already guilty of a crime the moment you list it on Amazon in California right now. I mean, this can't be. And so these are the things, and it's not masks and a hand sanitizer. We had a conversation with Kentucky AG where he's saying, right now we're the subpoena only says sanitizer and mask, but Signal, we may also expand this to peanut butter, and not expand this as in we'll tell you when it's peanut butter. It means that if you sell peanut butter and later we decide to turn it into peanut butter, you're going to be screwed then too. So that's not a really good way to do business, right? So it's like, now it's like, okay, I don't know what price, I'm already guilty of a crime. The very product I sell could be making me guilty of a crime or civil infraction ban on state law. It's just not a good way to do business. So we're just like, enough is enough. We're filing. I mean, we worked with the AG quite a bit. We had a number of conversations with the Kentucky AG before we filed this lawsuit. It just was clear they just, they wanted to keep that chill in the air that, we all have to just like sit out and not sell. Right. I'm like, that's the wrong thing.
Is a lot of this because these guys, I mean, who, yes, they're attorneys, but they're politicians too. They've got to get elected. They've got to get appointed. Is it because they do not understand e-commerce or the things that we have to go through as sellers? Or is it just because this may make them look good in the future when it's time for the next job, the next election, and so on?
No, that's a good question. Do the elected AGs, like the one in Indiana that was just disbarred for 30 days, suspended right to practice, so good. It's probably not the elected AGs. Maybe they know, maybe they don't. I don't know. The AAGs, some of them have said they didn't really think about it and appreciated the insight we provided them with a memo. We sent them a memo. We wrote a memo before we ever, back in like early April, I published a memo on this issue. Their point of view is, I think it's hard when you're on the phone with somebody and you're talking to them about this and you explain it to them, and I think it's hard for them to disagree with you. I really do. Like, I really think it's hard for people to disagree. I think what it then comes down to is what I was saying before, and what you're alluding to is like, then the politics kicks in, right? Then you feel the air fall, like it comes into like that movie, The Sixth Sense, where like all of a sudden you feel cold.
Yeah.
The body, the dead guy comes in. It's kind of like that, like the chill in the air. All of a sudden you feel like, okay, well, here's the part where you're going to tell us, despite how absolutely logical and correct we are, there's nothing you can do, right? Like there's nothing. This is the mandate we've been given by our bosses, and this is where we have to go. Yeah, because it's Amazon, right? Because Amazon's an awesome company and they bring lots of jobs. And Kentucky, obviously, the hub of Amazon, right?
Oh yeah, right there like, south of Cincinnati, they've got all the jobs and the airport.
Yeah. Oh yeah, I mean it wasn't the reason why we chose Kentucky. I like the mix of laws. I like the Sixth Circuit because you're touching Ohio. You've got a federal court district that touches Ohio, it touches Michigan, touches Indiana, touches Tennessee. So as that case goes up, it can have more and more. If it goes up, but which I expect it will. It can touch more things. So I like the center of the country. I also like the story of the center of the country because honestly, like. It was because masks were selling for, instead of 10, they were 40 or whatever they were. But because of that, people were going to get them in Arkansas or wherever, and they weren't needed in Arkansas in January. And it's kind of market working. Like they were needed. People desperately needed these things in New York. And it wasn't like Home Depot. Like, why didn't Home Depot just take the masks off the shelf and ship them to their stores in those states, right? They could have done that.
They could have, yeah, absolutely.
Right. And so what happened instead? Instead, okay, well, let's put it this way. Imagine you and I were friends. I'm out in California. You're out in the middle of the country. And I say, hey, man, there's this huge pandemic. It may be coming your way. I don't know. Dude, I need you to send me as many masks as you can. Can you please drive for like 200 miles to every Home Depot, give me every mask you can, pack in a box and ship it to my house like in 2 days?
Right.
Is it going to cost me? Is it realistic? Like, we're friends, you're still gonna, because I'll pay you back. Like, is it supposed to cost me the same as if I walk into a Home Depot in my local town at that point? Or are there some serious costs here that are baked into the increased price? Like the time we're spending, like the getting these things to the front line. And whether you buy that or not, whether you're like, I'm not arguing, because again, this case isn't just about mass and hand sanitizer. This is about peanut butter. This is about Nintendo Switch. There's Google Nintendo Switch price gouging. It's a thing.
Oh my God, those prices are insane.
Should they go to jail? I mean, I don't actually know. Like, I couldn't comfortably tell somebody that you couldn't be committing a crime in California for Nintendo Switch price gouging. I don't think you should be.
No.
At the end of the day, it's a Nintendo Switch. It's not water. But, and I understand we're bored at home, and it's something we raised because I think it was the Kentucky AG. It might have been another state too. They said, the DVDs might be on fair game.
Oh, that's ridiculous.
Right, because America's stuck at home. And it's like, well, shoot. I mean, I can get 50-cent Ernest Goes to Camp sitting on the discount rack at Walmart and flip that for $10, and that's, what is that, 2,000%? Am my math right, or whatever it is? And, it's like it just can't be this way. And so it's not to be. Again, it's. I understand it's a polarizing topic because we are in a time, but it's like I'm not sure. One, I definitely think people are not putting enough blame on Amazon, because to the extent Amazon could have prevented prices from getting out of control, to the extent they had an obligation to, and again, I'm not going there, it would be their obligation, right? It was their obligation to prevent $700 toilet paper. The reason you can't get Charmin right now in your grocery store is because somebody on the internet allowed $700 toilet paper to become a thing and freaked us all out. It's one of the reasons, but the point is, who could have prevented that from happening and causing panic? The largest retailer in the world, right? That's their responsibility as a store. It's like, and I sort of said in my memo, like if Walmart sort of said, okay, if you imagine an AG walking into Walmart saying, oh, why is your toilet paper $700? I'm going to arrest you, Mr. Walmart manager. He said, no. My toilet paper supplier is no longer a supplier. He's a seller. And he sets the price, and I just take a cut. And whatever he says, I just put it up on the store for him. Do you think the AG's gonna be like, oh, well then, you certainly bested us. Good day, good job, good day to you, sir, Walmart. Go ahead and sell $700 toilet paper to the people of Kentucky. Absolutely not, but that's exactly what Amazon does. I mean, and it's the same with tax. It's the same way. It's exactly what the South Carolina court said when they ruled against Amazon in the tax case. It's like you're sort of just like discreetly restructuring what is effectively a retail store and trying to get out of these obligations that the stores are typically accountable for. So and again, and that to me is another reason why this was an important case, because it's a message that we're just not doing a good job of getting out there. It's like, stop. I don't think Amazon customers think of us as sellers. Like, I don't think they just see Prime. Like, I don't think they fully understand it until something goes wrong and then maybe they get to interact with one. But certainly Amazon keeps the customer away from us, and So anyway, sorry about the rant. I just tend to get all soapboxy on this issue, but
that's okay, man.
Doing court tomorrow, so I gotta make sure I'm ready to go. No worry, I'm not gonna be the lead one talking here. I'm hoping actually not to talk at all, but I get too passionate and I don't want to bring that to a courtroom. So
right,
we've got a great litigator that we're working with, Aaron Block, who's a former partner from Jones Day. Has just been an absolute legend in helping us move this thing so far along, and we've got a great local counsel that we're working with in Kentucky, and just a great team. Really
that's awesome.
In this case. So, but
yeah,
it's a crazy one out there, and I hope people understand that this is important. This is important for not just because, even if you don't like hand sanitizers and masks, this is an important issue for us, because I don't like the precedent it is setting that thing that we could be doing any day of the week is illegal. Really
because eventually if you take this to its conclusion, you've got toys at Christmas time and you've got book flipping from Goodwill. Can you charge $35, or heck, I've sold books for $250 that I've bought for $1 at Goodwill
easily.
So you take it to its logical conclusion, and who knows where it stops. So
right, remember Tickle Me Elmo?
Oh yeah,
you remember that? Is it what's gated?
I was. Yeah.
Oh, was Amazon even around that? I feel like that was pre-Amazon. I don't remember. That was like, I don't know. I was actually in high school, so I imagine most of the people watching this were probably not even born yet. It's just scary. But yeah, it was in 1997. It was like, that was the hot toy. 96, excuse me, I think. And you couldn't get it, and people were like fighting in the malls for it. And it's kind of like Nintendo Wii, right? It was the same way, right? And is that price gouging now because Christmas is a time of duress for everybody?
Right.
I was in a state of duress because I'm trying to get my kid a present, and you sold me a Tickle Me Elmo for $700 that normally costs $20. It's and does there need to be a state of emergency? I mean, the thing, a lot of these states don't have the Florida. I was going to bring this case, actually. I mean, I originally wanted to bring this case in Florida. I'm licensed in Florida. I'm not licensed in Kentucky for one, but I like, Florida had some things going on. Like, what? Ended up talking to some folks and found them to be reasonable. Like, that they actually respected, unlike a lot of, like, no other state I think I've dealt with has been really respectful of the date. They all send this letter saying, Governor declared state of emergency on March 6th or March 9th. And I'm like, well, I'm not going to tell you whether or not my clients did or didn't sell this product. All I can tell you is they definitely didn't have a listing for that product on or after March 9th. And because of that, this should be an open and shut, see you later. Like, if they didn't have a listing, no sale could have occurred. What are we doing here? But then it's like, but we think we have a right to challenge it under a different law. Oh, so it's not really about the state of emergency after all. It's actually about having hindsight to know that this was a global pandemic and that we'd all be trapped in our homes in January, when in February, even the president of the United States was telling us it wasn't a big deal. Not criticizing it, again, just saying these are facts. I'm just saying it's an amazing amount of hindsight that the government is putting on, our smallest business owners in the world. It's like Amazon didn't have the hindsight to see this coming so as to turn off the automatic repricers that would cause prices to get out of control. But you, sir, the retail arbitrager in Kentucky should have known all of the potential impacts, and that we'd all be trapped in our homes 2 months from now, right? It's absurd. There's so many things here that are ludicrous, and I just want to have a day in court to sort of start pushing back. And I'm tired of Amazon sellers. I'm saying us as merchants being the scapegoats for every time Amazon does something kind of crappy and profits from it, and then can just use us as scapegoats. I'm just tired of that treatment.
Yeah, absolutely. Let me ask this, and I don't want to keep you too much longer. I want you to be fresh for tomorrow. What should we do as sellers next? How can we make sure that that we are heard? How can we help the cause, if you will? What would be the best to facilitate that?
Yeah, so I mean, things that we need, right, from the online merchant skill perspective. Obviously, I'm going to be a little bit, facetious. Hire me as your lawyer. I'm just kidding, but kind of not kidding. But listen, being an Amazon lawyer, I don't know if it's as lucrative as corporate law. Certainly from the time perspective, I miss my 9-to-5 lifestyle of working in-house corporate litigation. That's fun. So obviously supporting the firm is always great, but it's not affiliated with Online Merchant Skills. We don't even I don't bill my time. Like it's really, I like these cases. I'm happy to take them on. I want the community to get together. Mm-hmm. Okay, we have to pay outside lawyers though. These cases are complicated, so I do have to pay Aaron Block, and I do have to pay Mitch Gilbert, our co-counsel, and I have to pay Marty Bekesian, all these lawyers that we've hired over the years to get things done. And that does cost money. And the beauty is that when we take on these cases as a group, it's a lot cheaper for all of us because we're a group. So let's keep that going. But yeah, obviously any support, that's always good. But really what we need your support. We need you to continue to, if you're a member already, great, continue to be a member. If you want to contribute more, we have a GoFundMe link somewhere. Hopefully somebody can post it somewhere. See, I'm so bad.
It's all right. What I'll do is so this is going to go out to my email list. If you guys are on it, it's going to stay in FBA Today as a video. It's on my YouTube channel. I'll make sure to grab the GoFundMe link and all that stuff and make sure it's there so everybody can see.
Please do, and support us. And the one thing about GoFundMe is that you do have the opportunity to contribute anonymously if you really don't want to be a member and get my occasional emails here and there and kind of but definitely support us. Tell your friends, tell your other people, if you go to a conference, ask them why we're not speaking, and when I say we have a lot of people out there who will publicly gladly, I guarantee you some, back when there was conferences to go to, a lot of people we work with who could easily, even if I would never expense Online Merchant Guild money to go and attend a trade show. I don't think that's right. Mm-hmm. I think that would be abusive. Actually, I do expense like I declared 3 trips to Sacramento. One was a last minute trip when I was in London. I had to drop everything and run to Sacramento, but that's another story. That I have to, because I'm going to Sacramento, right? But that's right. It's just plane ticket, hotel, whatever. What can I do about that? But to expense a trip to whatever, one of these big conferences, even to speak, I wouldn't feel comfortable with that. So we can always designate somebody to speak on our behalf. There's always going to be somebody at one of these big conferences. But ask why are they not supporting? Why aren't the big conferences supporting this mission? Because this is about them too. I always tell these people, it's our ability to regain the balance of power, work together, start accomplishing, taking on issues. It's to restore the balance of power, not just with the government, but between us and Amazon, right? Because Amazon's got an ear to the government. Amazon's got their ear right up to the government, right? Their mouth right up to the government's ear, right? We have nothing. We should have lobbyists in Congress. We should have a lobbying firm engaged in Congress 24/7, not literally, but that's a $20,000 a month endeavor. We're not there yet, but we should. Right. Amazon probably spends, I don't even want to know, millions, hundreds of thousands, millions on lobbyists every year just in federal and then certainly at state level. Probably thousands. We need to have a voice. We have a compelling story. The cool thing about us is that if we can get to the people, if we can lobby, if we can use our, or if we can use our connection, we have voters. This thing is Amazon's one company, but we have voters from all over the world, all over the country, excuse me. Mm-hmm. And so the one thing that's always cool is even if somebody doesn't want to be public, if I've got an issue and I really need to talk to that congressman from this state, I can usually find somebody in that state who will reach out to them as a member and say, hey, I'm a member of this organization. I would really like you to listen to this person on my behalf because he's saying something that this is important to me. And we get meetings with that congressperson. We get meetings with that. It's a very cool thing that we have these members, and that's a very powerful thing in Congress. So to have a well-organized lobbying front and a member base that even if it's private, but we can say, hey, we have this many people in this district. We have this many people, and we can say things and we can get their attention. And we certainly have members who are willing to speak up. Not that that's ever required of any of our members. So we have this potential to be really powerful. So next time you go somewhere, you're listening to somebody, ask like, why don't you support this, or support this movement, because I think we need more people to kind of get behind it. I do a lot of it on my own. I do a lot of the work, a lot of day-to-day on my own. I would like to stop doing that. I still want to do the legal. I want to do the advocacy. I don't want to do the reaching out to, I love webinars and ranting, as you've noticed. But what I don't like doing is like the membering, is like the engagement of those people. Like I don't like to go out and find people and sort of, and I would love, I think we were kind of anticipating more support from the community than we initially thought from folks who could help us get the word out. And I appreciate you letting us get the word out here, because I think, I think it's awesome. But now you kind of see what we're doing, and the way price gouging is kind of what I want tax to be, and we're still doing it in tax. It's just there's issues that make it slower. I like this about price gouging, that we can move quickly and show like, hey, like if we were a well-oiled machine, we could be doing this all day long. Picking on laws, picking on when they pick on us, we pick on them back. Like that kind of thing. That's what I want us to be doing. And so hopefully hopefully it works. Hopefully people see it and get the point, and people continue to support us. And yeah, so just continue to support us, be a member, and help spread the word. And if you want to be a leader in this thing, if you're one of those people like, what, I want my name on this, I want to be, I like what you're doing, I like political advocacy, jump on board, let me know, and be one of our leaders. I really do think this is an organization for the sellers, for the merchants, not for me. I was never meant to run it in the way that I'm running it, and I really want to turn it back over to you, the seller community, which I still think I'm a part of, but I want even more control by you, because I think this organization is is meant to be for you. That was the original founder's idea of this thing, and I want to make sure that we do live up to that obligation as we kind of get more and more off the ground. So absolutely.
That's all right, Paul. Thank you so much, guys. If do me a favor, make sure to like the video, make sure to share the video with your seller friends. Let's get the word out about what Paul and the people he works with are doing. I think it is important that we're able to. Jeff Bezos admitted that third-party sellers are kicking his first-party butt, and so they do need us. And so we do deserve the respect that I think is due. And unfortunately, sometimes we got to speak up about it to get that respect. And I think Paul and the Online Merchants Guild is going to be doing that for us. So make sure to check out onlinemerchantsguild.org. Make sure to go to sellerbasics.com. I think this is a genius idea, by the way, being able to have a monthly subscription to be able to get an attorney on the phone and chat, about things Amazon related. And all of that is a great idea. And I'm going to talk to Paul a little bit more about this and then probably share a lot more information about it. So
I will say as a quick thing about Seller Basics, though, it's great. You can get an attorney on the phone anytime. That's the whole point. It's, the discounts, all that, they're meant to be 15-minute calls, really quick, and then to the extent there's follow-up. But as you can tell, I don't think it's pretty hard for me to talk for only 15 minutes. So, I really think there's value there. So there's value there.
Yeah, so. Absolutely. So you guys, make sure to check that out. Make sure to share this everywhere. I think that people at least need to know about it, even if they don't want to join. Everyone should learn about what's going on and know that there are people out there carrying the shield and taking the arrows for Amazon sellers in the courts and in the halls of law, if you will. So please do that. And if you guys have any questions, make sure to post them. Let me know. I'll keep a conversation open with Paul, and we'll get answers and information out there. And since he's got a case, since they're arguing tomorrow, as soon as more information is out about that, I'll be sharing the follow up on that, because I thought the article on it was really great. So I think the follow-up on it's going to be fascinating, and I hope it concludes the way that you'd like it to. So,
fingers crossed, everybody.
Yeah, absolutely.
Tomorrow,
so
3 o'clock tomorrow.
Yeah, Paul, thanks again, man. I appreciate you
you.
taking the time, and I will talk to you again soon. All right,
Thank you.
bye-bye.
Take care.